Last night I managed to finish my whole stack of 6-round grannies for my Babette blanket, with the exception of one because I've run out of yarn. But look at all those ends. Need to sit down and weave those in at some point. Hi, welcome to Vlogtober day 12. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me online should be linked in the description box just below this video. It's Saturday here today and I'm working in the shop all day today, so there could be limited opportunity for me to film. So I thought I'd do a quick intro and see where we go. I usually work half day on a Saturday, but once a month I host an afternoon group, and so today is that day, which means I won't be getting home until about 5:30, and it's very likely that I won't be fit for anything other than putting my feet up on the sofa when I get home after a long week. I did have a question on yesterday's video which I thought I could chat about briefly so that we have a little bit of content to share today. So the lovely Archeo girl, who I think is Jenny, hopefully that's right, maybe I made that up, sorry Jenny, Archeo girl if that's not right, she asked me, when do I start thinking about my 12 cast-ons of Christmas? So just a brief explanation for anyone who may be new to the channel or hasn't been here very long. For the last couple of years, I've started a tradition for myself where every end of December, beginning of January, I cast on 12 projects. I refer to them as my 12 cast-ons of Christmas because that's the holiday that we celebrate. But of course, I know not everyone celebrates Christmas, but that's just kind of a catch-all title that I use for my sort of frivolous, fun few days of casting on. I have quite a bit of yarn and many patterns in my stash. I try not to accumulate things too often these days, but in the past, particularly when I first came back to knitting, and I'm sure some of us probably can relate to the same, I got so enthralled by the whole indie dyed, indie pattern maker sort of world that I hadn't discovered before, that I was purchasing yarn and patterns faster than I could actually knit. So I've ended up with a little bit of stash. I try not to accumulate things too fast now. You might notice if you watch my regular podcast that there's not often an acquisition segment. But I'm conscious that I have all of these lovely things in my stash, and because I now also run the shop, I work on a lot of projects with yarn from the shop when I'm in the shop, so my stash doesn't get used at a super fast rate these days. So at the end of the year I treat myself to 12 cast-ons. I usually start on the 24th of December, and for the next 12 days I will cast on something from my stash, whether it be yarn or pattern, and just see how far I can get with that project that day, and then it gets put aside and I just work on it as and when. There's no pressure, these projects are just for me, and I don't really mind if they take years to finish. So I think I've still got 4 projects left from last year's 12 cast-ons, and it's very likely that at least 2, maybe even 3, will still be on the needles and hook by the time the end of the year comes round. But I don't mind, I don't put pressure on myself, and I'm not one of these people that finds their whips kind of stare at them from the corner, judging them. These things get finished when they get finished. So yeah, that's the idea behind the 12 cast-ons of Christmas. And the question was, when do I start thinking about my 12 cast-ons? And the answer is now, really. I've actually started ruminating on it really since September, because although I don't have kids and the children in my family don't live near me, when I was a kid, going back to school in September was kind of the start of the countdown to Christmas. So yeah, I still kind of feel that in a lot of ways. I don't actually start gathering supplies, patterns, yarns really until December, but I do start thinking about what's in my stash, what's in my pattern library, and the things that I'd like to include in that cast-on frenzy, for want of a better phrase. So this year I think I've kind of settled on the idea of casting on yarns and patterns for the most part that have been gifted to me. So I've been very lucky over the last few years. Some of my lovely friends have sent me yarn, have sent me patterns, either for my birthday, for Christmas, for just because gifts, if we've done trades. And those are the sorts of yarns that hold that kind of special meaning, and so for me they tend to sit in my stash because I don't want to cast them on because they're too precious. I know it's probably crazy, but I'm sure you have probably skeins in your stash that are saying they've got some sort of sentimental attachment for you. So this year I've decided is the year for my 12 cast-ons to get some of those projects on the go. So that's my loose theme. I haven't and I won't decide entirely what the cast-ons will be until, as I say, we approach December really. But I'm just starting to think about the types of patterns, the types of projects that I'll be casting on, just in case there may be the additional skein of yarn, or perhaps I've got yarn in my stash that needs a pattern to go with it. I can start thinking about those sorts of things, so I am prepared well in advance, so that I can just cast on and get going when the time comes. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. If any of you need any more detail than I've given there, then please do pop a comment below. I do really enjoy my 12 cast-ons, and I know some people think that it's a little bit crazy to cast on 12 projects that may not have an end date, and for some people that will probably weigh a lot on their mind, on their consciousness, but for me, I love it.